What's going on, fam? Welcome to another fabulous episode of What You Wish You Knew about
About
HBCUs.
HBCUs.
I am your host, Kareem Penn. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr.
Anthony Bond.
And today we are bringing you a fabulous episode, right? We're here to talk about the rich history, the deep dive into the heart and soul of historically black colleges and universities. And today we're putting that spotlight on Bowie State University, home of the Bulldogs. Bowie State.
Right.
Yeah.
Representing Bowie State University. Just in case you're wondering, why am I never in the apparel that matches the school that we're doing? Because that's just my thing. I'm just subconsciously trying to get you, while you're learning about Bowie State, you're subconsciously looking at my shirt like, man, why is he wearing Norfolk State University? Let me Google Norfolk State. So it's actually a 2-for-1.
Two for one. Yeah. Yeah, it's 2-for-1. You
Two-
made that subconscious thing you're
Listen.
talking about.
When they look at it, it kind of seeps into the brain cells at the same time.
Or it may be the next school we're talking about. I don't know,
Hey.
right? It may be. But
I don't know.
not only do I have the Bowie Bulldog shirt on,
Here we go.
the black and
Here
gold.
we go.
I got the black and gold Jordan 1s to go with it.
He's extra.
I'm
He's
extra.
He's like Drake.
Drake.
Extra.
They may say I'm, I don't claim to be extra though, but that's what they say. So,
All right. So I mean, what we're gonna do is we're gonna really jump into the rich history and vibrant culture and profound impact that Bowie State has had on the community and beyond. I mean, from its humble beginnings in 1865 to today, it has become a beacon of academic excellence and social change. Bowie State is more than just an institution; it's a legacy.
It is a legacy, but the good thing about this, Ant, we're not just going to be talking about the past. Today, we're going to be exploring what makes Bowie State University a thriving hub of innovation and leadership, and we'll talk about its cutting-edge programs, inspiring alumni, and how to continue to shape the future, or how it continues to shape the future of education.
I mean, listen, Bowie State University is definitely a beacon in the community, and especially in the field of education. But what we can't forget about is student life. Student life pushes all university environments. The students, their energy on campus, the clubs, the sports, and of course, the legendary homecoming events. Homecoming. We can say that one more time. Homecoming events. You like the way I said that?
Yeah, homecoming events. Homecoming.
All right. We're going to give you an insider's view of what it's like to be part of this incredible community.
Yep. So, whether you're an alumnus, a prospective student, or someone who just wants to have that exposure about historically black colleges and universities, this is the episode for you. And again, we're spotlighting and highlighting Bowie State University. We're going to hear and share stories, insights, and everything you wish you knew about Bowie State University and HBCU.
That's right. Get ready for this enlightening journey. Pack your bags. Let's dive in and discover the heart of Bowie State University together.
So, welcome back to another fabulous episode of What You Wish You Knew About HBCUs. Again, I am Kareem Penn, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Anthony Bond.
Right. So, for those of you who have tuned in to the 3 previous episodes that we have done on Alabama A&M, Alabama State University, and Bethune-Cookman University, we talk about wanting to highlight specific HBCUs and spotlight them and give them that exposure and expose people out there to the many different HBCUs. But I feel it's also important that we set a foundation as to why we're doing this and what the purpose of this whole thing is, and to get a better understanding of not just those 100 plus HBCUs, but how everything came to be, how everything was started when it came to historically black colleges and universities, and what makes an historically black college and university.
It's definitely more than just homecoming.
Right,
You know.
definitely more than just homecoming. But looking at that aspect of what does it take, or what did it take to become an historically black college and university? How did they begin? Again, if you watched our previous episodes, we talked about Bethune Cookman with Mary McLeod Bethune with $1.50 starting that. But what is
Mhm.
the foundation? Where did it come from? And then why are they relevant today? So before we get into Bowie State, I think it's important to, just set that foundation for that. So, Ant, what is an historically black college or university, or university? I apologize, an HBCU.
Well, actually, in Title III of the Higher Education Act of 1965, Congress officially defined historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, as accredited degree granting institutions established before 1964 with the principal mission of educating black Americans, per the U.S. Department of Education.
Okay. So that key point in there, right? One of the key points that we can pull out is established before 1964, right? And as an accredited degree granting institution, right? Started again before 1964.
Mm-hmm.
So we get that, right? This is how they are declared as historically black colleges and universities. But why were they created? Why were HBCUs created?
I mean, for the most part, they were really created to give the newly freed, you know, black Americans a basis. They weren't going to be able to really enroll into the PWIs because they weren't allowed. Prior to the creation of HBCUs, there was no structured higher education system for black students. So the
Mhm.
education of black Americans, for the most part, was prohibited in most southern states and often discouraged in the northern states. Sometimes it seems like the North was open, but no, the North had a lot of segregation also.
Right, right. So, in the continuous with that, right? So the emergence of HBCUs in the mid late 1800s provided Black Americans the most basic of human rights, access to a full education for decades after the Civil War between 1861 and 1865, and the creation of HBCUs. Legal segregation still prevented Black Americans from attending college in the South, and quotas limited the number of Black students who could attend colleges in the North, making HBCUs the only education option for many Black Americans.
Notice that we said the North. So oftentimes people think that racism and segregation was only in the South. No, it was in the North too. It just looked a little bit different.
So we get this foundation, we get this structure, we have this act that is put into play what defines in historically black college and university, and then we understand the creation of them. But why are they still relevant today? Why are we sitting here on a podcast and three podcasts earlier talking about historically black colleges and universities, and why are we here today about to talk about the fourth? Right? What makes them still relevant today?
I mean, listen. First of all, you and I are products of an HBCU. So number one,
Number
you
one,
know,
HBCU.
that's
Yes,
right.
yes, yes, yes.
I mean, Kareem, HBCUs offer black youth and talent seeking organizations a 180 plus year track record of success. Additionally, much of America's culture and socioeconomic movements are driven by and a product of historically black colleges and universities. I mean, if you go deeper, there's performance. HBCUs consistently outperform non-HBCUs in student experience, affordability, college preparedness for Black Americans. There's
It,
a social impact. More students experience upward income mobility at HBCUs than at predominantly white colleges and institutions, thus reducing some of the social inequities. There's an economic impact. HBCUs build and strengthen communities, states, and countries. If you go to an HBCU, most of the time, the HBCU is it's almost like a beacon of the community. So I know at our HBCU, we're not going to tell yet, but most of the people that worked on the campus lived in the surrounding community.
Right.
So not only was it a beacon of education, it was providing a financial boost for that community.
Right.
I mean, some of those people had worked there their entire lives. They had family that had gone there. They were getting tuition reimbursement. So not only were they being provided a job, they were also now being provided, a step up by getting I guess getting access to a college and university.
Right.
And I mean, one thing I think you can't really think about is, if you're, say for instance, you're working at an HBCU, you're subconsciously taking in the importance of, education each day.
Right. Yeah. So that's important, and I want to thank you for just going over those facts, and we'll drop the link to where we pulled that information from in the description. But again, I felt that it was important to lay this foundation, and that and it's a small tidbit of the foundation of historically Black colleges and universities. As we go through the 100 plus HBCUs, we'll continue to highlight why they were created, but give that specific focus to that particular HBCU. But wanted to put that out there, wanted to share that with you all in case you were wondering, like, how did these two individuals just decide, like, hey, this is something that, right? I do know this has been sort of a like work in progress. Like, it's always been a thought of mine, and this idea to put out there. I think one of my strengths is ideation. If you do the Gallup strengths, right? So it's always been there. But just to give you some background and some context, and of course, you can always go ahead and do your own research, figure out what it is that if you have any specific question about HBCUs. But again, just putting that out there for you. So we got that, and we're gonna go ahead and begin diving into the school that this podcast is about today, and that is, again, Bowie State
University.
So just so you know, the people at our HBCU are probably gonna shun me because I got this on, and but do know it's part of the podcast to bring that exposure to that school that we're
and there's
talking
something bigger going on right now.
Yes, something bigger.
Something bigger.
Yeah. So cool. All right. So let's kick off with a little bit of history. Back in 1864, the Baltimore Association for the Moral and Educational Improvement of Colored People was founded by 46 visionary men, including Joseph N. Cushins.
I mean, listen, Kareem, that's exactly right. I mean, their first school number one, opened in 1865 in Baltimore, Maryland. It was a crucial step in educating the newly emancipated citizens.
All right. So fast forward 1910, the school relocated to a 187 acre in Bowie, Maryland, formerly known as Jericho Farm.
Listen, just imagine, number one, 1865, slavery ends, and now, you're creating a school, so you can imagine like the challenges and different things that they, experience. And now you're moving down to a farm, the land has to be clear, all of that stuff has to happen before the college can even begin to be built. Mm-hmm. So, this was a huge undertaking at this point in time. Their first president, Don Speed Smith Goodloe, was the first principal of the school when the school officially opened in 1911.
Wow. Goodloe, first principle, 1911. So by 1935, they introduced a 4-year program, right? So we're talking about moving to 187 acres. Slavery ended in 1865. Moving
Mm-hmm.
to a farm, you have this first principle in Goodlow, right? To train elementary school teachers, renaming the school Maryland Teachers College at Bowie in 1938.
I mean that's amazing. The one thing, if you've been watching our podcast, the one thing that you'll see is that a lot of these institutions started as teacher schools. I mean that's if you think about it, you know, Black Americans for the most part were uneducated group, and that was because slavery didn't allow you to go to school, didn't allow you to learn how to read or anything. So we had to create a base of teachers, a base of educators that were going to be the most important part of teaching the rest of the culture. I mean, today Bowie State University stands as a top comprehensive university, nurturing leaders and just tackling real world problems. But I mean, in 1911, I can imagine, they probably never thought it would be what it is today in 2023. It was just a dream, and I'm sure it was a difficult dream because 1911, just trying to get money to have your household was difficult. Let let alone creating an actual college.
Right, right. So as Biggie said, it was all a dream.
It was all a dream.
Yeah. So the fascinating part that comes out of that is like standing here today, Bowie State University, tackling the real world problems, right? And back in 1911, having this idea of what problems existed at that time and how are black people going to be able to navigate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their mission, Bowie State, empowering a diverse student body as Maryland's first historically black public university, right? Offering innovative academic programs and experiences for careers, lifelong learning, and civic responsibility. So, Maryland's first historically black public university.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, their core values really pretty much say it all: excellence, inclusivity, integrity, accountability, and innovation.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
that's a lot.
right?
That's a lot, especially when you think about just the wherewithal to have this huge vision in 1911 for Black people in America in 1911. So I mean, you just got to think about just the vision that it took to see beyond all the different things that were going on during that time in 1911. I mean, you still had a huge racial problem, and you were still trying to get a base of educated Black people in America.
Right.
So I mean, just when you look at the mission and the core values, I mean, it really showed that these people, these 46 individuals that were there, they really kind of had like a real foresight to look down the line.
Right. So, if we were to take, those core values: excellence, inclusivity, integrity, accountability, and innovation, right? Um, let's break those down for a moment. Like, what do we or what is considered excellence, right? And we're talking about a historically black college and university, and having this idea, this core value of excellence, right? Is it excellence for a group of people? Is it excellence for the school? Is it excellence for an entire race? Or is it excellence, that embodies what the country and the world should be? Like what excellence, like what do you think about when you hear that term excellence?
I mean, personally, what I think about as excellence, I believe, is just pushing to be number one and taking no shorts, no shorts. Just excellence is it's a constant, unwavering pursuit of being the best. Almost kind of like having like a tunnel vision.
Mm.
And, excellence, you're not just barely making it. Excellence, you're going beyond the mark. You're pushing out beyond the the standard mark.
Right, right. So, like, here's a standard. We're going above that, right?
Every day.
Every day.
On not just one day.
Right.
This is it.
Every day. And to think about having that core value established in 1911, right?
Yeah.
And then moving to where we are now. Every day getting better and better, right? So when we look at inclusivity, I know we're living in a space now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That inclusivity part, to have the wherewithal to think about, inclusiveness, right? But how do you think that played into this being a core value for Bowie State?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think, let's just start with the fact that, HBCUs are not just for,
Black people.
okay, we got to say that every week because there's always, a thought that they're just for black people.
Right.
But that never really was a thought. The only reason HBCUs were created is because we weren't allowed to be included in the student body of the predominantly white institutions.
As we talked about in the opening. Right?
Exactly. So they knew if they were going to create a college, they wanted to create a college that was going to welcome diversity. That was going to be very inclusive of, others.
Right.
During this time, I mean, one thing, if you think about someone who was fighting to be included, even amongst the African American race, were the women during this time in 1911. Women didn't even have the right to vote yet.
Right.
So it was very important for these founders to make sure that it was going to be an open and accepting university.
So, excellence, inclusivity, integrity, right? But like, again, 1911, established 1865, Civil War ends, slavery ends, right? But now you have this integrity. Like, how does this university even begin to think about what integrity is, coming off of all the things that they experienced, black people had experienced, going through the Civil War, being slaves, and now being freed slaves, but not having any education? Like, what integrity, like, how does that even become part of that?
Well, I think that they knew that, number one, historically black college university was going to automatically be scrutinized. So, I mean, if you've been to an HBCU, those are some of the most difficult teachers that you're going to meet.
100%.
I mean, I've been to PWIs and I've been to HBCUs, and, I mean, I had a person at my HBCU call my mom when I didn't go to class.
Right.
And my mom came there, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. But just the fact that, when you attend an HBCU, integrity is really, really important because, oftentimes, they're fighting for respect.
Right.
They're fighting for respect. So I think the integrity was just something in 1911 that you were going to push for because, there probably were a lot of people that were wondering, why do these black people even need to go to college? Right. Why do they need their own college and university?
Right. And then especially for what they were teaching, like what it was to train black people to become educated so that they can go back and teach other blacks who, did not have the opportunity and access, before that time, right? So that becomes that question of, you're creating a school to teach black people to teach other black people, but so excellence, inclusivity, integrity, accountability, and innovation. Like, again, going through, and I'll say it again, going through what black people went through, right? How do you, again, to fathom this idea of accountability, when everything around you wasn't being, like, people weren't being held accountable, right? We talked about it in the opening, human rights, right? So how does this university say this is what we want to be one of our core values when it wasn't even present around on a daily basis?
Yeah, but I think with when you're looking at 1911, this is around the time where the NAACP was really important. You had, leaders like, Booker T. Washington was around then, W.E.B. Du Bois, and I think that, a lot of the educated black people in America, they felt that it was kind of almost kind of like their duty to, push the, I guess I would say push the opportunities, like kind of like open the door.
Right.
And so I think they had a very, very high amount of accountability, because if they messed up, that was it.
Right.
If Bowie State University opened up and those weren't the best students coming out, that was it. You weren't gonna get many chances,
Right.
especially with some of the money coming from some of the places that it came. This was kind of like a one-time thing. We're gonna give you this money. If you mess up one time, if it doesn't work, Bowie State might not be here in 2023.
Right. So fast forward from, again, and we talked about it, creation 1865, 1911 being that hub, to really that sets that foundation, to where we are now, right, 2023. That word innovation, for me, think about it. It resonates with how do we continue to get better, be in that going above that standard of excellence, right? Continuing to be innovative, creating new ideas, right? We talked about that in a minute. Ideation is one of my strengths, right? But to be innovative, to be ahead of the time, to continue with that standard of excellence, to continue to hold, people accountable and hold the university accountable and everyone who walks across that campus. But then to have this integrity as well, finding those innovative ways to continue to live up to that, is how I see, Bowie State being innovative, through technology. And you're going to learn, as we talk about it, some of the things that Bowie State has done, and continues to do to get better. But I just wanted to, get a sense of, when you hear that word innovation, as it relates to Bowie State, like what comes to mind? How does that resonate?
I mean, the biggest thing that, when you talk about innovation is something that's new, upcoming, that's kind of pushing things ahead, pushing technology, innovation, new techniques, new methods of, teaching,
Right.
New methods of, computer science, new methods of engineering. And I think Bowie State, from the very beginning, has always kind of pushed out into those areas that have kind of pushed and challenged. I guess I would say the status quo.
Okay.
So I mean, innovation, just coming up with new things. When I think of an innovator, I think of somebody that's kind of coming up with something that's going to change, society.
Right.
That's going to kind of like become the new standard.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that Bowie State pushes to.
Right. So, one of the things at Bowie, when visit the website or, go to campus, talk to students, we talk about that innovative piece, one of their messages, or one of the things they stand behind is, where your bold future awaits, right? You have a future, but again, it's that innovative way and bringing that innovation in to create that bold future for all
Right.
the students, right?
Hashtag Bowie Bold. Hashtag Bowie Bold.
Right. So awesome. Again, core values, in the mission, Bowie State is on track to continue to do great things. talked about the core values, the mission of Bowie, the foundation, moving to 187 acres Jericho Farm in Bowie, Maryland, right off of 197. Um, for those of you who are familiar with Maryland, but you know, I feel like it's time for us to get into some of the academic programs that Bowie State has to offer that fit into that realm of their core values: excellence, inclusivity, integrity, accountability, and innovation. So, what 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 does Bowie have to offer any potential student that is interested in going to Bowie State?
I mean, Bowie Alpha has a wide array of different programs and majors that you can kind of focus on when you're there. I mean, some of the ones that I want to kind of talk about just briefly. There's the College of Arts and Sciences, which offers many diverse programs like communication, computer science, fine arts, to the College of Business, focusing on management and marketing.
So you highlight a couple College of Arts and Sciences. So you talked about communications, but not only do they offer that communication, we're talking about language and literature, cultural studies, mathematics, military science, the natural sciences, and technology. Um, offering a wide array of programs that fall under that particular college. And you mentioned the College of Business, right? We're living in a you know in an age where having that business mindset, right?
Hmm.
Whether it is that entrepreneurial spirit, right, or creating your own business, taking over as CEO, all those things. Um, the College of Business at Bowie State has underneath like management, marketing, um, the skills to help sharpen those skills that you are going to need in order to be out there in the business world. Um, but you mentioned those, but we also have the College of Education. And, for
Hmm.
those of you who have tuned into our previous podcast, you should know by now that both Ant and I are in the field of education.
We love the kids.
We love the kids, right? Um, to the point of where we both started out in education in the same year, same city, did the same amount of time
Hmm.
in the city, then left the city and went to our current location, where we have been there for the past 15 years.
Yep.
Yep, 15. So we're looking at, finishing up 25 years altogether in education. So looking at this particular college, the College of Education, where you have counseling, psychological studies, educational studies, and leadership, teaching, learning, and professional development. Um, you know, we take that and any student coming out with a degree in education, we know that Bowie is going to have cutting edge and innovative ways of preparing them to be able to tackle what's going on in our educational system today,
I mean,
right?
definitely, definitely. I mean, Bowie State is always going to be a leader. That's the thing. When you talk about Bowie, Bowie is always going to be a leader. Bowie's always going to be at the top of everything. And I mean, listen, we need educators that are prepared because today's student. What did Fat Joe say? Yesterday's news is not today's. No, well, yesterday's price. Well, I can tell you, after teaching for 25 years, yesterday's student is not today's student. So we
No.
need teachers that are really into technology and innovation. Because the world moves so quickly. The students their attention span is very, very quick.
Right.
So you have to really be kind of prepared for that. And I definitely feel like the College of Education at Bowie State University, is preparing some of the top teachers in America.
Right. And you think about, what is in that area surrounding Bowie State. You're talking about Washington, D.C., you're talking about Prince George's County Public Schools, you're talking about um, Anne Arundel County, Howard, Baltimore City, Baltimore County. So you have this wide range of school districts that are just in need of teachers, and not not just in the state of Maryland, but teachers, nationwide. And I believe that Bowie is doing a great job in preparing those students to become leaders in the classroom, but not only leaders in the classroom, but leaders of school buildings as well. We also have the College of Professional Studies, right? So this is where I fall into, because
Mm-hmm.
education wasn't my it wasn't my thing. Political science was, right. Again, I had my whole life mapped out how it was going to be, but life has a funny way of pointing you in the direction that it needs you to go in. But behavioral science and human services, criminal justice, nursing, psychology, and social work. But thinking about how you can mirror those two, right, with education now.
Mm-hmm.
Social workers are in buildings, right?
Yeah.
Psychologists are in buildings helping to work through some of the struggles and trauma that a lot of students are facing in schools as a whole.
Yeah.
Everything from,
I
the
mean,
academic stress, right? And then the social emotional piece as well.
especially, I mean, their job has gotten even more intensified since the COVID-19 school shutdowns, and students went, students missed whole years of social development, educational development, just the things that you miss out on while they weren't in school for that time period.
Right. Yeah, having to take classes online, but not just students, right? Teachers
Yeah.
also having to teach online, going from standing in front of the classroom to now sitting in front of a computer, right? So, but when we look at what Bowie State is offering and how they're going about educating and teaching students to become teachers and deal with, this new way of teaching, or included it in their aspect of teaching, I think you know Bowie State is doing a great job when it comes to that.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely. And one thing that we can't really forget about, they do have undergrad, but they also have a very extensive graduate and an extensive set of graduate programs, but also doctoral programs.
Oh,
Y-
doctoral.
Listen, hey, I'll be Dr. Bond one day.
When you go to do your doctorate, let me know. We can do it together,
Hey,
Dr. Bond
listen,
and Dr.
then
Penn.
we'll have to change the name of the podcast. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
we can call it. We'll figure it out.
The
But
doctors present
the doctors
what you
present.
wish you knew about HBCUs.
Or maybe we can have a BCU. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
historically, right? Black College University, right?
Okay.
And,
Something like that.
yeah,
Something like that.
inclusiveness and diversity and for all. So,
So I mean, they offer all these programs, but then they also offer various certificate options.
mm,
A lot of times people forget about the certificate. You may not need to go for a full degree if you just earn a certificate for certain positions where a 4-year degree might not be allowed. Or if you have a 4-year degree, you might only just need a certificate to attach to your degree to open you up to new areas. I
right.
mean, the graduate school offers 20 different master's degree programs,
Mm,
16 specialty certificates, and 3 doctoral programs. I mean that's a lot. You
it
got a
is.
lot of things going on at the same time.
Man, I was just, as we were doing research for this and as we look at different things, right? One of the certificate programs that are out there is entrepreneurship,
Wow.
right? Bowie State is offering entrepreneurship certificate, right? Again, and we mentioned like this whole idea of being innovative and having that business mindset, but taking all of those things and putting it together and being this entrepreneur, and to have a university that is offering that as a certificated program is just phenomenal. So all you entrepreneurs out there, people who want to be entrepreneurs, you have a historically black college and university
Mm-hmm.
that is offering, you to be able to get your certificate in that. I think as we sit here on a podcast, that may be something that will
Hey,
be helpful for us and for
never
others,
know.
right? But again, it leads right into that idea of that core value of innovation, right? Who would have thought this would be something that would be offered at a university? So shout outs to Bowie State for that.
That's right.
So, Ant, right, we talked about academics. Again, we talked about the whole idea of like the core values of Bowie State, the foundation of historically black colleges and universities, and all the different programs that they have to offer and what its mission is. So, we're gonna kind of focus on now the campus life
Mm-hmm.
of of Bowie State, and for the students and for the faculty at Bowie State. So when you think about campus life, Bowie offers a vibrant campus life. Again, right off of Jericho Farm, not too far from Bowie Town Center. Um,
Mm-hmm.
about 15 minutes from 15 20 minutes from DC, Washington DC. Um, so when you look at the campus, over 50 student groups that they offer, Greek life and Greek organizations. Again, I let you handle that because that's
Listen,
that's what it is that you do. I'm not Greek. I was me by me.
it's really,
Um,
really cold today. Let's
it
just say that. Ice cold, actually.
well, it is, especially up here.
Ice
Um,
cold.
but he means it for a different reason, right? In a diverse international population, right? So we're not just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on students from out of the state of Maryland, in Maryland. We're also they're looking at students coming from all different parts of the world to take part in receiving an education at Bowie State.
Mm-hmm. I mean, listen. Kareem, there's a lot of stuff that students to engage in at Bowie. I mean, there's the political activism. Political activism, has been a staple on the HBCU campus. I think pretty much since the HBCU began. If you look at so many of our leaders, they've come from HBCUs.
Mm,
If you think about like so many of the student led civil rights movements, those were college students that they kind of led those things.
right,
So you have the community service aspect that most HBCUs provide.
right,
HBCUs push their students to participate in things off campus to try to find problems and kind of solve problems that are happening in the surrounding areas. Um, just to find their niche, there's clubs, there's organizations, there's so many different things to do on HBCUs, and I mean Bowie's no different.
right.
They have a wide variety of just so many things for the students to do.
Right, and you touched on it a little bit, that community service part, and for all of us, all of you who watched our previous episodes, we talk about that community service being a large part of historically black colleges and universities, as well as the fraternities, the Greek life organizations that it exists and live on the campus of Bowie State. So, you know, I we're local, so we can probably go down to Bowie State and capture all of those things,
Yeah.
that campus life, that student life. But as you'll see, as you can see, we have a third chair here,
Oh.
and if you haven't noticed, we're now holding the mics in our hand.
And my
It,
mic stand just fell on the floor.
we'll get that. But we're fortunate from time to time that we will be able to have you know special guests on the podcast, live guests on the podcast, and we have one here with us today who represents Bowie State. So I'm gonna turn it over to my man Ant because he's smiling and he has every right to be smiling right now.
That's
So
right.
Ant, take it over. Tell her who our special guest is.
So our special guest is no other than my son Zaire Bond, who is a freshman at Bowie State University. and he's made us so proud. And he's actually, taking busy time out of his schedule. There we go. Busy time out of his schedule to come out and check in with us and give us some really really good information today.
Yeah. So, Zaire, welcome.
And I'm gonna hand you the mic.
We
Yes.
appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate having you. Your dad and I feel like you having you on the show to talk about the student aspect of attending a historically black college and university, and you being a freshman at Bowie State. One of the big things that we want to know and people want to know is like, why did you choose to attend Bowie State, an historically black college and university, when you have University of Maryland, you have Towson, you have UMBC, um, but also you have Morgan, UMES, Coppin. Why Bowie State and why an HBCU?
I believe that's a very good question, especially when it pertains to me, because Bowie State was the only college I applied to. So I was very adamant that I was going here, and I'm happy that I made this decision. For me, I wanted to be surrounded by like-minded individuals that look like me, and that we may have similar experiences and stories, and that we can come together and like build off of that and to create something new and better for and before we go out into the public world. And then like another thing that would help motivate me come to Bowie State is that in high school I was a part of a program called the Black Male Teachers College, and it was for young males in grades 8 through 12 who wanted to become teachers. And being in that program, it really opened my eyes about the school and then HBCUs and what it means to be a black male educator, which is why I picked Bowie State University, because of the people that are there and what I have learned from them and the experience I've gained. And also now, since I'm an history education major.
Okay, so following your dad's footsteps,
Yep.
history education. I just want to go back a minute. You said you only applied to Bowie State, so you had no doubt that that's where you wanted to go.
Yep.
Okay, so hats off to you to getting into Bowie State.
Thank you.
But you talk about something also that is fascinating. When we opened the show, we talked about how Bowie State, one of its purposes was to train black people to be educated so that they can go back, and to hear that you were part of a program that has continued that legacy and has done it in more innovative ways to be in the high schools now to offer you all that opportunity. It's just fascinating. So I don't want to hog all the time, so I know your dad has some questions for you. So you can pass him the mic, right? Or
Yep. All right. So, you gonna pass me the mic? All right, we'll play back and forth. All right. So my first question to you is, I noticed that you got all A's and one B. So I'm just, I'm not even gonna put you out.
That was a typical dad thing, right? Especially when you're away at school, not too far away, but
Listen.
away, and whether even if we're paying for it or not, right? The whole idea of you better be doing what we send you to school to do. But go ahead.
Listen, he's definitely pushing, because we're not even gonna talk about my freshman year grades. That's a no go. All right, so you've just finished your first semester at Bowie State University. So just tell us some things that you learned and experienced in your very first semester.
First, I would say overall, my first semester was an amazing one. Coming as a first-time freshman and a first-time college student, I really didn't know what I was expecting or what I was going to get myself into. But I feel like I exceeded my expectations of what I thought or assumed that would be happening. One of the things I got to do was I went to a lot of the SGA open forums and discussions to talk about the campus and how we can make it better. And it was a very good thing. It opened my eyes up to new opportunities and possibilities. I got to meet new people. More people got to know my name, and I got to put myself out there. I even had the pleasure of being honored by the SGA program. They gave me AirPods for being a member who's always there asking questions and providing I would say resources, but like opinions and like things and ideas. I would say it was a good thing for me. Another thing I tried to do is I went to a lot of the the dinner with the dean, so we can talk with the dean of students too, just to provide, you know, my thoughts about the school and how well it is, and things like that. Another thing I got to do, I went to a lot of the sporting events too. That was fun. I mean, I could say I'm the school's number one fan because I've been to all the football games and the basketball games too. So I try to go to everything because, you know, I have
Homecoming.
to, yeah, I have to, yeah, including
Definitely
homecoming,
homecoming.
I have to support my school. So I make sure to do that all the time. So I've been to a lot of sporting events. And then speaking of homecoming, uh, this year I experienced my first homecoming. It was definitely a good one. It was very good, especially because it was my first time ever going to any homecoming event at a college. So I think it set my expectation of what homecoming is supposed to be, and hopefully it exceeds it my time here.
Good. So it sounds like you like really immerse yourself into the college life, the campus life, and all that it has to offer. I'm hearing great things. You know, a lot of it is focused on you potentially becoming a leader,
Mhm.
right? You know, attending HDA events, having dinner with the dean, and just providing your take on not only how to continue to grow the college, right, Bowie State University, but how to continue with that innovative mindset and that accountability mindset. So hats off to you for doing all those things. And if we had a number one finger for you to be the number one fan, we would give it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So all those things point to you eventually. And forgive me because I didn't ask. Do you want to be a teacher?
Yes.
Yes, right. So I knew that. I just wanted to hear that, right? But all those things point to you being an excellent leader in front of students, right? Of all walks and all backgrounds. So when you look at Bowie State as a whole and being a freshman on campus and being involved, um, what are some of the things, like if you had four things, four top things that or pieces of advice that you would share with anyone who is looking to become a Bowie State student, someone who is already there, what would those four things be?
So, like, the first thing I would say is doing research, because doing research is important. Like for me, I like Bowie State was the first and only school I applied to. But again, I still did research on the school just to see what it's about and some of the things that they offer. Like if you're coming to Bowie State, a good thing, as I would say, a major thing that is become important is that what they offer is called the Entrepreneurship Living Learning Center, or I think it's community, or the ELLC, which is a building and also dorm two that's focusing on entrepreneurship and helping students start businesses and even come up with the ideas.
Mm,
And even students are even allowed to go sell things in the dorm, and they even have I would say pop-up shops too
okay.
as well. So I mean, if you're into business and entrepreneurship and selling things, Bowie State would be the place for you if you want to go to there. Another tip I would have to say is actually go to the campus so you can see it in real life and in person, just to experience, get the feel and immerse into it. So I mean, in 2022, I had the pleasure of going there for the first time on April 6th, and when I went to that campus, I fell in love with it. So I got to see different variety of Black people, and that's another thing of diversity too. Because while we were there, they were having, I believe, it was like a Comic Con type thing.
Hmm.
So we saw different Black people dressed up in different characters and costumes. I was like, wow, this is another thing with people with similarities to me, and like with because I also like superheroes and Star Wars and all that stuff. So I was like, this is a very good thing too. So I feel like we can all find something at the school.
Okay.
Let me see. Another tip I have to say. I talked about.
When you talk about academics, I'm gonna help you out. Like,
Oh,
what would be one academic tip that you would give to students who are trying to come and students who are already on campus?
so another academic tip. The main thing I say is to use your resources, because
Okay.
Bowie State is a good thing for having a lot of resources that you can go to for help. Like for me, I went use the writing center. That is the number one thing I've used it. I've gone so far as to telling other people, if you have an essay or something, anything, a resume, and you need it, go to the writing center because they will help you and set you straight. So I definitely needed that during English class this time. Like if I didn't understand what the professor's asking me. And I will also say another thing is they also have people on campus that are here to help you too.
Right.
And anything that you can go to talk to, like for me, my freshman instructor for freshman seminar, she was the program administrative assistant for the history and government department. So anytime I needed something or need to ask questions on some things about the school or anything, I will always come to her. So there's a lot of people on campus that are actually willing to help you. So you have to make sure you go out and reach out to them. That'll be another thing is make sure you speak up. You can't really get anything if you just stay quiet.
Right.
So
Okay.
another tip.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have really, again, have shaped yourself and allow Bowie State to mold you, into this person that is sitting right here. Um, most people out there who are gonna watch this podcast are gonna be like, "Oh, he's the spokesman for Bowie State." I mean, you laid everything out, and everything that you shared is very important, right? Including the part of you knew you wanted to go to Bowie State, right? But you still like, I got to do my research. I got to find the things that what makes Bowie Bowie State. So for you and your dad, right? Your dad being in that educator and coming from a line of educators, he was able to guide you and lead you through those things, right? A lot of it you may have done on your own, but again, there are a lot of people out there who don't have the information and where to get that information. So you sharing that and hey, continue to do your research and however you can support your dad in this podcast with all of those things is great. So what if you had to create this one word that describes your experience at Bowie State, what would that word be? Because we're gonna put it on a hashtag later.
I would say my experience at one word that would describe my experience, I would say, you
It's not a
kind of
word.
gave me a kind of tough question. I never really thought of this before.
Hey, you gotta always be on. Always gotta be on.
True.
Yeah.
True. I think it would be outstanding.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would be outstanding, especially because I was doing some outstanding things and doing things I never had done before. Like for the first college semester, I earned a 3.8 GPA. Outstanding.
Congrats. We're gonna go ahead and applause that right there.
Yes, thank you. I worked really hard to get to that. So I've done many outstanding things, like the recognition from the SGA. I even also got to talk with the president too.
Okay.
So
You better know it.
yes, Dr. Aminta Bro.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All
So I
right.
even
So
got
shout
to-
outs.
So I even got to sit down and talk to her and converse too. So I think I've been doing a lot of outstanding things, especially for a first-time freshman. I really don't think a lot of freshmen are thinking about this, but I feel like I've been like kind of on the go from the get-go since the beginning. And I think I've always been like someone who's trying to reach for big things,
Right.
and do outstanding things.
So you fall right into all of the core values that Bowie State stands on, right?
Yes.
That excellence, right? Having that standard, but going above and beyond, innovative ways, right, of trying to change the campus, being held accountable. That 3.8 GPA, I know you want to go higher, so that accountability, and just the integrity of going in every day, waking up every day. Like there's nobody there to tell you to get up and go to school, right? It's not like high school where it's there, right? Here you're on your own. You got to get up. You got to do. So that integrity and that accountability, right? And then just overall, like that inclusivity, involving yourself into everything, like all the services that they have. So I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And providing that aspect to everything. We greatly appreciate it. And you're welcome back anytime. Do know when we talk about our HBCU, we can't like
Okay.
you can stay home.
Okay,
No,
okay.
nothing like that.
I'll support in spirit.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. of engagement, let's touch a bit about the missions and aid policies for Bowie State. Like, what does it take to get there? How much is it? You know,
Yeah, I mean, so to apply to Bowie State, you're gonna go to bowiestate.edu. You know, Bowie State welcomes all students who meet their standards. For new students, they evaluate your GPA, the SAT/ACT scores, and counselor recommendations. Now, when we're talking about test scores, what we're talking about is the fact that Bowie State, for the most part, is test optional.
Mm.
However, if you have over a 3.0, you can earn different merit-based scholarships based off of your GPA.
okay.
So if you can be admitted without your GPA, sorry, without your SAT and ACT score, if you have a GPA of a 3.0 or higher in high school. But if you do, then that gives you access to different scholarships and different grants that otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to access. Now, for students whose high school GPA falls between 2.5 and 2.9, and they meet the minimum standards, they may be asked to take a placement test, such as a credit level English or math course in accordance with the criteria established by their academic department.
That's awesome, right? I just want to highlight the fact that students who achieve a 3.0 or higher GPA in high school, you can be accepted to Bowie State without your SAT or ACT scores. But then it opens so many more doors as far as whatever scholarships are out there, aid, anything like that. Um, all those things are an important piece to deciding whether or not you want to attend a university. Um, and Bowie, you know, makes that we talk about access and opportunity. Um, Having people being able to gain that access, um, is going to create a wealth of opportunities for them. So it is when I don't know about you, but anytime that you can go to school for free or at a reduced cost or half cost, um you
Hmm.
know that's exciting, right?
Oh yeah,
So
definitely, definitely.
when you think about what it is that you have to do in the classroom, right? Think about it this way. The higher your GPA, the more money you'll be able to gain in scholarship, some type of scholarship, whether it is school related, organizational based, whatever the case may be. That's money that you don't have to. And please forgive me, Aunt, but I have to say it. I know, again, it's a profane word, but that's
Mm-mm,
less
don't you say it.
that's less money that you have to borrow in financial aid.
There
In
he is. There, look. Let me push one of these buttons. It's got to be something. Yeah, yeah. That's the perfect one. Don't say it. Don't say it. Listen, financial aid is not what we're looking for. We're looking for grants and scholarships. That's what we're looking for.
grants and scholarships, right? That
Not financial aid.
not financial aid, not that student loan. Although I did just see that there was some loan forgiveness. Um,
Yeah, but I don't think you want to go into getting your loans banking on that
right,
because that's based off the president. By the time you get into your college or university, it may be a different president.
right.
And think about all the presidents we ever had. That's the only one that ever did something like that. So that's kind of like a risky thing that you don't know if it's going to happen or not.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't want you out here getting loans thinking that, well, the next president will probably forgive because we just don't know.
We don't know.
I mean, there's people today that still haven't been forgiven. So it's not
Right,
like every single person is getting forgiven. So
right,
that's just too big of a risk.
right.
Scholarships and grants. That's what we're focused on.
So in talking about scholarships and grants, like what would a scholarship cost cover at Bowie State University? So let's just break down the tuition and the fees, right? So we're looking at, and remember, Bowie State is a public institution, right? It was the first public institution in the state of Maryland. And what that means basically is that there are two different costs, one for in-state and one for out of state, um, being that it's public, right? So tuition as a whole, and we're looking at the 24 school year. Um, Tuition as a whole for in-state is around $6,000, right?
Mhm.
Annually. Okay, so that is what, 3,000 a semester?
Yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere
around there.
around there.
Okay, but out of state, we're looking about $17,000 for out of state tuition. Okay, so that's anybody who is not in the state of Maryland, and I'm not sure if Bowie does the neighboring state thing. Like, if
Yeah.
you are a resident of DC, would you be considered like an in-state person? I don't know. We
Well,
can find that out.
now the one thing that I will like to kind of toss out there, being that we're dealing with this right now, is that some of those costs can vary because some of the dorms have different fees.
Right.
So some dorms cost more than others. So you definitely want to do your research before you come down, because if you want the nicer dorm,
Hmm.
guess what? You do have to pay a little bit more.
Right.
But sometimes some of the nicer dorms may actually have a kitchen,
Mm.
or may actually be set up kind of like a suite. So
Right.
there's like a common area with 4 private bedrooms off. So I mean, you do get what you pay for.
Right. So other costs that come into that, other things that they factor in: athletic fees, wellness center fees, university construction fee, student center fee, technology, all those things that they factor into that. But the grand total of being able to attend, to cover the cost of attending Bowie State for in-state annually, you're looking at about $9,000 annually, and for out of state, you're looking at about $20,000 to cover that, right? So for 4 years out of state, you're looking at what, $80,000, and for 4 years in state, you're looking at $40,000. Okay,
Okay.
but again, if you do what you need to do in the classroom and apply for scholarships, get those scholarships, a lot of this can be covered. Um, Again, we are looking at scholarships and grants, fellowships. Not so much that student aid, those student loans. But again, you know, we're never going to discourage anyone. If you have to, please do your research on that. Like Ann said, make sure you find the best possible loan for you. That's not going to hit you in the head with interest rates and variable interest rates and all those things, right? So,
Definitely.
all right, and so we just finished talking about what it's going to cost to attend Bowie State University. We looked at some of the admissions policies, test
Mhm.
optional, 3.0 GPAs, scholarships. Right, and there are a variety of scholarships out there. We talked about, school based, organizational based. We have the athletics, we academics. We also have band. Um, you know,
Symphony of Soul.
Symphony of Soul,
That's
right?
right.
Yes, Bowie State Symphony of Soul. So there are a variety of ways that you can, gain access and opportunities to scholarships, to attend Bowie State. But I guess like one of the big ones is that athletic scholarship. And speaking of athletic scholarships, tell me a little bit about the athletics at Bowie State.
Well, listen, Bowie State's athletics, are top tier. They are NCAA Division II. They have 5 men's and 8 women's teams, and the Bulldog is their mascot. And I think the Bulldog has a nickname. I can't remember what his name is right now. But since 1989, Bowie State University has won 25 conference championships, and that's amazing. I
Mm.
mean, conference championships across a wide variety of areas. One that stands out is Bowie State's bowling team has won 6 CIAA titles in a row. I mean, that's amazing.
Right,
Who knew that HBCUs had bowling? But they do,
right.
and they're very, very good. In addition to the bowling highlights, there's the softball team,
Mm.
which has won several conference championships, and just produced amazing teams during that time period. I mean, the one thing that really sticks out about Bowie State is just the type of athlete that they look for. They look for athletes that are well rounded,
All right.
athletes that are they're doing their work on the field,
Mm-hmm.
doing their work on the court, doing their work in the classroom. But the one thing that sticks out is they look for athletes that really do their work in the community.
Right.
When I was doing my research, I came across a story, and it talked about a Bowie State football athlete. His name was Mikael Saladin,
Mm.
and he collected nearly 100 toys in his first annual toy drive that he
Really?
held on December 23rd in Temple Hills, Maryland. I mean,
Wow.
he said that he embraced this opportunity to provide holiday cheer, gifting toys to the youth of the DMV area. And that's what you think of when you think about a Bowie State athlete. The
Mm.
Bowie State athletes are, you know, givers of the community. Now, of course, they love the cheers and the chants and winning championships.
Right.
But this story just really really kind of stood out to me. I'm like, wow, you have this young man on the football team that's doing a toy drive, on his own.
Mm.
I mean, it was definitely an amazing experience. I mean, they have top tier athletic trainers,
Right.
top tier coaches. Bowie State has produced some very, very strong athletes over the years, and I really like that they reach out a lot. They often host football camps to local athletes. They host basketball camps. You know, Oftentimes their pool is open to a lot of the local swim teams.
Right.
So athletics is really really important.
So, and we talked about a lot of things. Had a great, guest speaker come in, give us the student perspective. We talked about, the admissions, athletics, and everything like that. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the notable alumni that attended Bowie State University. We're talking about singer Tony Braxton.
Uh
Yes,
oh. Who do you think I am?
I love me some her. Yes, Tony Braxton. 7 whole days.
Okay,
That's
listen,
yeah. Hey.
take me back there.
Yes, right. So Tony B, Wale,
Okay.
and then someone who's making a lot of fame now, recently, Miles Frost, who attended Bowie State, from Bowie State to Broadway, and he was the youngest person to win Best Lead Actor in a Musical for his role as Michael Jackson in the MJ the Musical. I had an opportunity to see that with him being the lead, Michael Jackson. Oh my dude. Walk like Michael, talk like Michael, dance like Michael, sing like Michael, all the mannerisms like Michael. Shout outs to you, Miles Frost, for that role. You played the hell out of it. Good job. And being a Bowie State alum. And one of the alum that stands out is Kristen McCullum, who was a teacher and tragically passed away in 1986 in the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. Being an alum and being that teacher to have an opportunity to go out into space, unfortunately never made it there. But in honor of her, there is a dorm named after her on the Bowie State campus. So those are just some of the notable alum that are came in through the doors of Bowie State, walked the campus, and not only when they walked the campus, they left a legacy behind.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. When you think about somebody like her, to go from Bowie State to teaching school to to NASA, a lot of those different types of trajectories they're set up through partnerships and connections. I mean, Bowie State is known for their partnerships. Being this close to DC, you have a lot of you have the federal government, that has a lot of internships, and you have a lot of major businesses here that are connected to the federal government. So engineering is a major I guess it's a major feeder
Right.
to Bowie State University. I mean, they have impressive partnerships with the NSA, USA Jobs, JP Morgan, to name a few. They have partnerships and internships, such as the Summer Strategic Communications intern program, the Human Resources intern program, the Installation and Logistics intern program, and the Summer Language program.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these are amazing opportunities for you to get connected and set up with an actual job when you graduate.
Yep, and they all fall under the National Security Agency, the last four that he mentioned. So partnerships and internships, and being that close and connected. Um, you know, it's again, we're talking about access and opportunity, and there's access and opportunity being presented to you. So please take advantage of that for students who are currently on campus attending Bowie State. Take advantage, get into the career planning and placement center or the career center. How and make yourself uh, you know let people know who you are, build that resume, that personal mission statement, all those things, so that you can be marketable and take advantage of those opportunities. So, Ant,
This is it.
yeah,
Our favorite
our
part of our episodes.
favorite part of our episodes. So, I am what you call a foodie. I like food. I love to cook. I love to eat. I was over the summer. I was in a chef competition. You know, uh, that was like a wonderful experience where all my dishes had to be displayed, and the entire nation and world can vote on like my dishes amongst like thousands of other chefs. So um, I take pride in my cooking. I'm about to go cook as soon as we finish this episode.
Hey, I guess I'm about to be eating.
Yeah, hey, you know. But this is the segment that we get to, because I love food, we love food. We always want to put out there the local places to eat around any university, that can give you that sense of home cooking. If you're coming from, a different state, this is the first time you're being on your own, to everything for those quick meals, because you don't want to eat that dorm food or that kind of thing. But dining halls have become increasingly, our dining hall was love it. I think it was ran by Marriott, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Miss Pam. As
Yeah.
usual. It's always shout out to Miss Pam.
So, Ant, tell me a little bit about the local places to eat.
I mean, listen, there's a lot of different places to eat. There's Rock and Toss, Crab House. There's Nuke's Eatery. Some of my personal favorites, though, because my son is attending Bowie State University. So every time we go down there, he's always hungry. Like every single time. I've never been to Bowie State to visit him, and he hasn't suckered me out of Walmart food for his dorm room, but then an actual hot meal.
Right.
So some of my favorites when we go there's Blue Sunday, there's Black Cow, and one of my favorites is Kitchen Cray.
Okay.
Those are just some. I mean, just the crab cakes and you got the crab cakes. That's one of my favorite things. You got the the buffalo wings. You have a lot of different delicacies at those restaurants. I mean, Bowie is known for their dining options.
Right.
There's a lot of different dining options there. And, as a parent, listen, take your visits. If you're taking your visits, make sure that you explore some of these things. We'll definitely provide some of these links to some of these restaurants in the description for this week's podcast.
Yep.
I mean, but listen, we've been here for a while. I know you're getting ready to cook. I'm getting ready to eat.
Right.
Let's see what he's gonna make. So nevertheless, it's been an amazing day today exploring, Bowie State University, and I definitely think it's an amazing institution. I mean, it's like a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, it is. But I just want to add, a few more places to eat.
There you go, talking about food.
Yeah, if you like beignets, PJ's Coffee House, off 450, in Bowie. Oh my God, the beignets are, they are just fantastic. it comes close to, you know, I had an opportunity to go to New Orleans and get some beignets in New Orleans. This is right there. So PJ's Coffee House, um, Samosa Supreme. If you like samosas, Indian food, go there. But of course, if you love Southern comfort food, Ruby's Southern Comfort Kitchen in Bowie, right next to Target. Um, not too far from the Bowie Town Center. Oh my god, man! And they started out the little small location, and they have since grown to this bigger location. Again, right next to Target. So if you want that Southern cuisine, check out Ruby Southern Kitchen. And I thank you, Zaire. I
course.
thank you. Um,
Now I have to feed Zaire.
Now you have to
You
feed
know.
Zaire,
I,
but
got, I might have to take out some financial aid, actually.
nah, you gotta get a scholarship
I gotta
fellowship.
get a grant to feed him after this.
Get a grant for feeding. But thanks is always a pleasure, and that wraps up our podcast on what you wish you knew
About an
HBCU.
HBCU.
Bowie State, shout out. We'll catch you next time.